Hi, I'm Michael L. Everybody. I just want to talk about the extortion that's going on in this land. This land is full of extortioners. They call themselves the police. They go around throughout this land giving people tickets, fines, imprisoning them, probation fees, and classes that they make them take in order to keep them from being arrested for nonviolent crimes. Nonviolent crimes do need to have issues, but the freedom of God still exists. That every man and woman and child that do live has a free will. It's nothing that nobody can control. No matter how much you beat them into submission, how much you throw them in jail, how much money you give them, how many kisses, and how faithful you were, you cannot control another person's will. If they want to live a certain way, they are going to live that way. You need not to be the one who's trying to stop them. If they decide they do not want to live a certain way, then they will change their mind to the way that they decide that they want to live. No law you can pass can change that. No statute, no ordinance, no regulation or usage of anything can change a person's free will to choose the way they want to live. Now, I say that because it's a whole bunch of laws on books. They're not laws, they're called statutes, congressional laws, constitutional laws, treaties, and whatnot. But back in 1865, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed by one known as Abraham Lincoln and a few others. It came upon an agreement that there should be abolishment of slavery, and no man, a woman, or child should be forced to do anything against their will. And so the land had agreed. So somewhere throughout that time, the trickery in mankind started to develop a way to go around that, to cause chaos throughout the land, to obtain the missions and goals that they had set forth for themselves. But in that process, they did hideous crimes, and they were recognized and noticed by many. So in 1871, 6 years after the 1865 signatures of one known as Abraham Lincoln, a congressional law passed the Title 42. And in that Title 42, it was a section called 1983. It was installed against people who called themselves approaching other people, demanding certain homages, taxes, food, or whatever they said. Say you violated a rule, you violated a law, you have to pay. The law says, but there was not a law. It was a group of people, Caucasian males, who had came together as a body and decided that they would follow these rules, and anybody who joined their organization will follow the rules as well. In that process, many joined them for whatever reason they decided to link with them, and they became many. And throughout that, they had hired what was known as officers to monitor the conduct of those that were their members, and also protect them and show them if a wrong was committed to that person or their property. And so anyway, in that process, they just took upon themselves to see if they could work on someone who was not in their organization. And because it did, and there was no resistance, because their organization housed most of the property and all the buildings in the what's known as government officials today, establishment, was done by their society as a whole. And everybody said, hey, we want a part of that. That looked like me. Because they looked like they was orchestrated. They was well, advancing and leaving those who look like me behind. So they felt that they needed to get into that race so that they can keep up and not lose. So how could they do that? They had been scripting everything for the last 100 years at least, and then the warring, there was no teaching, there was no educating of children back during that time, for those who don't recognize. And during that time, the process continues to allow itself to come to a conclusion that they needed to find a way to understand these things. So anyway, it was set in play. Learn to read by any means necessary, so that we may understand the transactions of the communicating the words, what gives people the power to act or to do, whatever they want to another person, which they should not be able to do because it's not a God-given right. You would never be able to have a state law, federal laws, regulations, rules, or statutes against a person to make them do what you would want them to do. You can't make a Muslim be a Christian. You can't make a Christian be a Muslim. So I would think that you would try to understand that in that process that it needs to be addressed. Take your time, learn Title 42 of the United States Code. I am Michael L.